Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Brendan Sonnone, Noles 24/7. Brendan, how you doing, bud?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me, TJ. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. The honor is all mine. Let's talk about Florida State a little bit. I don't know what else we would talk about. I appreciate you breaking away from the video game that the Poors just got today. You spent the extra money, right?
Oh
I mean,
wow! Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, come on, $20 I mean, you think about it like that though. $20 for 3 days is kind of hilarious because I don't use any of the skill points or any of the, I don't
Oh,
play like Ultimate
I'm
Team.
saving mine up for a rainy day. I had a buddy last year who didn't want to spend money on it. It was like out of principle for the early release. He got so much FOMO a day and a half into it. He bought it. I was like, dude, what was the point? You paid it.
So I really shouldn't have. I've only played the game like 2 times because yesterday I had some stuff going on. We had a live show. We just got a lot of stuff going on. Last year I felt really good about it because I played it for like a solid 3 days. I really probably wasted the $20 because I've only turned the console on like twice to play. So maybe next year I won't do the early, but I don't know. By the time we get there, I'll probably end up just
You're
doing
going to
it.
see everyone play it and all the EA hype.
Yeah,
They do
and
a good job marketing and getting you kind of fired up for it.
yeah, it's $20, right? Like it's not, you know, what else could you spend that money on?
Groceries.
All right, coming on. Actually, what people want to hear about, I think maybe, expectations are so funny, and I want to talk in a minute about program type expectations and then like season reality expectations, year over year. But Vegas has a line of around 7.5. Just thoughts on the ability for Florida State to bounce back and at least get to at or around that number of 7-ish.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, but one of my talking points this offseason, it's been very true for me. It's something I'm just trying to enforce in my mind here, my beautiful mind, is to be okay being like, I don't know. Right? Like last year, no one knew what was coming. And um no one, like the coaching staff, analysts, local media, fans, even like other fan bases, like I don't think anyone foresaw 2 wins happening. And so now you revamp the roster totally. I think they have 50 plus 51 or so like newcomers, 20 something transfers. A handful of freshmen are expected to play and contribute. Usman Chroma chief among them. And so there's so many variables and unknowns. Like I don't know what it's going to look like year to year. At this point, we can kind of base like what they did do in the transfer portal is add a bunch of veteran experienced guys. That's been one thing that I think they tried to go a complete 180 on from the year before in the transfer portal, which was disastrous for them to bank. It's all hindsight. There's not a one way to do it, but the thing we learned last year is not the way to do it at all. So there's one way to not do it, but you can do it in any different types of ways we've seen. Uh, and getting a bunch of veteran players could work. Should raise the floor. Should add a level of competency. But yeah, man, I think 7 or 8 wins is like reasonable. It's also Florida State. You are front loading contracts to have an above average roster. Like you should be winning 7 or 8 games. So I don't want like what happened a year before to really dictate like what I think the fan base should expect. Like you shouldn't lower the bar, I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm getting at here. And I know it's a long rambling way for me to answer. Like, yeah, 7 wins is reasonable. The talent level should indicate 7 wins, but last year talent level should have been like, all right, maybe not 9 or 10 wins, which Vegas had 9.5, but like should have been 7 or 8 wins. Like that shouldn't have been a team that only won 2 games, but it did because the pieces didn't work together, and players checked out, and it was just a disaster. It was a mess.
Yeah. On the checkout there, that's a good segue into this.
Thank you.
It's almost like you knew the notes. Which he didn't, by the way. I didn't send
I
this
did
out.
it. No, no, no. I just know you. I just know you.
The I think I saw AB, and I've had this take since the schedule really came out and was released back in January, February timeframe. That the Virginia game was the most important game on the schedule to me because when you look at the big 4 games that they have, Alabama, Miami, Clemson, and Florida, those games, it would be incredibly tough as of today to see Florida State finding a way to win those games. Not that it's impossible, but they'll probably be a touchdown dog in each of them, if not more. Miami would be the one that is maybe a question mark based on how the first month goes, but everything else, they're going to be at least a touchdown dog in it, I would venture to say. With that in mind, you could kind of say like, well, I understand if you lose those, but if you lose that Virginia game, you start out 2-3, most likely, right? And though October does lighten up for you, you get Pitt at home, but then Wake, Stanford, some games you should certainly go out and do pretty well in. You kind of wonder about that buy-in. And so I guess my question, all that kind of premise, my question would be, and again, the answer is going to be I don't know because we haven't seen it, but the thought around the buy-in. I mean, these guys bought into a program that was 2-10, and so will they continue to fight if things are rough in the early season, or if Bama comes out with a huge win on opening night? Or do you think that the mindset of like, hey, no, I bought in, I know what I bought into, right? Like, I didn't sign up to play for the 13-0 Noles. I signed up to play for the 2-10 Noles. And so just thoughts on the mindset that we may see this year. Could that be different? Could there be more buy-in this year? All right, big news. I'll get right back to the video, but my FSU podcast, Double Fries No Slaw, is partnering with T1RX, a supplement and health company, to give away 2 free tickets to the Alabama FSU game on August 30th. Now, no purchase is necessary to win, and all you have to do is enter your name, phone number, and email so that we can reach out to the winner. I've put a link down in the description. It's below as well. www.t1rx.com/pages/FSU Bama Tix, TIX. With it, you'll also get 2 free passes into the Double Fries No Slaw tailgate where you can eat and drink until your heart is content, all while in the shade during that August Florida heat. Go enter to win today. No purchase necessary, and we will see you out of the tailgate.
Well, it'd be hard for there to be less buy-in, and there was certainly like Georgia Tech game happened last year and exposed some of the one of the big talking points going into that game was we thought Florida State would be able to run the ball. Georgia Tech didn't have a great run defense. The offense was built to run the football. It was running effectively in camp, and like the big thing that happened was that we kind of qualified it with. It's like, hey, if you can't run the ball on Georgia Tech, then that changes the math totally what the team can be. Lo and behold, they had a great first series, one that we'll never forget, very CFB 26-ish, too, just a lot of run, and play action stuff. Love that. And then the rest of the season happened. And so things fell apart. They weren't what they thought they could be. And the buyout or the buy, it wasn't buy-in, it was buyout really started to happen there. And it was like a mass exodus of like effort and identity. And so now a year forward, I think you bring up a really good point, dude, that these guys signed up for a totally different set of expectations. It doesn't mean they don't have high internal expectations, but when you had a bunch of players who were on a team that the year before got snubbed, and then you brought in a bunch of players who were like, yeah, we're going to be part of this revenge tour team. And as soon as that got taken off the table, and I think that brings me into a point of like macro college football in general, and part of the I don't know like idea is that the year-to-year stuff changes so much, and there's so many new moving pieces. One of the things that Mike Norvell did phenomenally was integrating and getting buy-in from transfers early on in his tenure. And that includes like Jermaine Johnson, Kier Thomas, JB Robinson, after an 0-4 start. And it was one of the more remarkable things I think we've seen in his tenure. Even more impressive than 10 wins, maybe more impressive than 13 wins, is the fact that that team and that program didn't bottom out after the start it had with the season it had the year before, and it did it with a lot of transfers, front and center. And so, point being is like I think that the idea of buy-in, buyout, it is very dependent on results year to year for different programs. Now you can see a lot of, and we saw FSU in past years, like in 2022, like you benefited from teams kind of checking out towards the end of the season that weren't doing very well. And so I think that's a thing in college football now. But you brought guys in who were supposed to be floor raisers culturally, identity wise. Deuce Robinson, his work ethic. Like, I think that's all stuff that leads you to believe, like, yeah, they can maybe overcome a rough start. But again, not great radio or TV. I know, not great YouTube. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I do think last year was the exception. You think about that really over the last couple of years. They've, Mike's always talking about, and I hate the coach like cliche words that every coach uses, like, oh, climb or row the boat or respond. Mike always talks about response. They did respond really well in that 2022 year after a terrible start, and even some of their losses down the stretch. Like, man, they had the Clemson game, within grasp. Everybody was sick for NC State, and they still managed to look, somewhat decent in that. And then the Florida game, you lose a 3-point game as a 3-point dog on the road in the swamp. I thought that they responded really well there in 2022. I guess they lost 3 games in a row, and they gave some games away. But I thought they responded well after each one. They responded well after the Wake Forest game. They came out.
Jordan Travis never lost after that third loss in a row. He's like, I don't like this feeling. I mean, he never lost another game that he started the rest of his college career.
And even those 3 losses in a row, I don't think that was a case of, one loss turned into 2. They started well against Clemson and played well until really like the last 2 minutes of the first half.
Middle 8, baby.
And then same thing, NC State. Like that was literally, from the punt beyond the line to the interception late. I mean, they really should have won that game too. And I thought they responded well. And then Jordan gets hurt. They respond well against the rest of that North Alabama game, the Florida game. They played well enough to win, and then the Louisville game, the defense certainly did what you needed to do. So I think last year was the anomaly to the way that they respond. Now, when you have a year that's as disastrous as last year, it makes you question everything. You forget about all those other times where you did respond well. But I do think that they have done a good job of that. And so even if you do have a rough start, that could be it could be something to maybe be hopeful for when the schedule does lighten up in October some after that Miami game. I know you've talked about this a little bit about on the bench, but how do you balance program expectations versus maybe what your season expectations are? And just quickly, my thought on this is, you're not one of the most 25 best, talented rosters in the country, or maybe best teams in the country. Talent, the composite will come out, I guess, later this month or next month. But you're not one of the best 25 teams in the country. I think everybody would accept that. But you've also been, this is a program that you have built. Like, these aren't other guys' players. These aren't, they all signed up to be. You brought them in. So how do you balance that? What the program standard is versus what is realistic this year?
Well, all right, so it just made me think of something, and with the point, I want to combine 2 things if that's okay. And if not, just you can edit it and tell me I'm an idiot here. But I think when you talk about program expectations with what the roster has been built like, and we go back to the topic right before, and you were talking about the response year over year, last year being the outlier, I think is super important to note. But I also wonder, you look at the way Mike Norvell's own response was during the season, the body language in games, and he's acknowledged this, and I'll give him a lot of credit. Like, he's admitted, like, yeah, my body language, I didn't respond well, and I think that's mature of him to acknowledge that. But do you get that back? And when I say that, like, the ability, like, after I mean, the people that you recruited, your coworkers, your colleagues, everyone around you saw that. And so do you come back from that? For someone whose his whole like mantra has been consistency in doing. I know he has a bunch of words and buzzwords that he uses, but his thing is he does the same thing every single day, and that's when you talk to anyone around their program. Shoot, going back to the 2021 0-4 start, people were like freaked out about like how calm and like the same as every day that he was. Like, he was the same as he was the day before a loss, after a loss. It didn't matter. He was the same and had the same energy. Recruits talk about that currently, how he has the same energy. But the fact that it shifted last year, and it was for everyone to see, and I imagine this like horrible sense of like vulnerability, like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? How many missteps did I make? I can't change any of it in real time. It's going to be awful. But how do you come back from that? And how do you come back? And they still haven't come back from, we do things this way. We go the right way and build it this way up slowly, surely, steadily. And you work the way I'm telling you to work, what I'm asking for you to do, and there will be rewards at the end of it. And then it doesn't happen, and you get snubbed historically for it. And that was a point that I thought in real time. I don't know how you come back from it. I never foresaw last year. But the internal expectations is just another thing, man. Like, I don't know, because so much of it is, how do people respond to Mike Norvell? Like, how do his employees and his players, how does he lead and how do they follow? And that is another huge variable for the season. Talent wise, man, I think they have like I'd push back that they don't have top 25 talent. Like it's still Florida State. I'm sure the composite's going to say they have a top 25 talent when it comes out. Like I don't know. Yeah, it's not a team with a bunch of superstars, but like you have multiple guys who should be all ACC candidates, or at least have the physical tools if you're developing them correctly to be like Daryl Jackson should not be uh, awesome at football. Like he has, like Clay Fink put out the other day, he might have the longest arms ever in combine history when he goes in next year. And there's some really good film too. There's some not so good film as well. James Williams was one of the most prolific pass rushers in the country last year. Now it was matchup dependent. It was against not great teams sometimes, but there was some good stuff there. And like, there's going to be matchups where he can feast this season. Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White, like those are guys who have like level of production, have good athleticism. Like there's enough there, is what I'm saying. It's like I think it should be a top 25 roster. If you don't have a top 25 type of record, I think that gets us to a larger point of, are they maximizing?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go 7.5 over under. So we'll go a game and a half either way. I'm going to give you 4 different records, and I just want you to give me a one word or like a one quick phrase on how, so not we'll rapid fire these. Just,
Okay.
What will the mood be after each of these records? We'll go bottom to top. 6 and 6.
Disgruntled.
7 and 5.
Perturbed.
8 and 4.
Okay.
9 and 3.
Yeah, baby. Climb.
I think anything outside of that would answers would be fairly obvious as to what the mood would be. I mean, shoot, 10 and 2. You go one more than that, and you're in all reality, you're probably going to the playoff, which is.
Well, then you could start. Then you could start. Yeah, that would be crazy. Then you could start selling. Like even if you get to 9 wins, man, I think even if you get to 8, depending on what it looks like, I think you can at least sell on the recruiting trail. That's one thing. Like during this June, July run, like I would pump the brakes on some of the it's going to be a top 10 class. Like I think that's just people don't know how recruiting rankings work sometimes, and like no, they're. But it's still like I don't want to be a party pooper either. They're going to have a top 15 class most likely as long as they win on the field this year. And then if they win on the field and this new staff is recruiting at a higher level and they're emphasizing high school recruiting investment at a higher level, and Mike Norvell's and all this stuff kind of melts together, then all of a sudden, man, maybe you can start recruiting at the level needed to sustain success at a school like Florida State. So yeah, we'll see. I think 8 wins would be good.
What will FSU do if they finish 6 and 6? Will that buy Mike? I mean, just in your gut, do you think that buys them another year, or do you think that's probably not enough?
I mean, the buyout would still be pretty exorbitant. It's probably still buys them another year with like things being very tenuous in 2027 would be my gut reaction there. Again, I think it also depends on what it looks like, how close are the losses, who are you winning, who are you losing, to. I think all that kind of does matter. Yeah, I mean, you have real life money to worry about there. So yeah, I think that'd be tough to swallow the poison pill. And the big thing, man, is be attendance. Like if people check out, if they start, that's when you go back to Virginia being important. If you start out, 2 and 3 or 3 and 2 or whatever it is, and you're not, if Alabama beats you up pretty good, and then Virginia you look poor against, and then it starts feeling like a lot like beginning of year 2 for Willie Taggart type of stuff. And you have a new stadium, or not new stadium, but newly renovated stadium, and a football only facility. You got boosters coming to games that are big time backers of this, and you're not selling out the stadium that you just put a lot of money on instead of the roster, like then you have to start answering some tough questions and get your calculator out and see what's worth it or not, I guess.
Yeah.